Hi everyone, my name is Hillary Roman and I'm here with Matt Hanley and this is Career Insight. We are going to be chatting today with two people from Student Success Center here on campus. Chris, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Chris Roman. I'm a Student Success Advisor.
I'm Rob Sales, same as Chris.
Thank you, Rob and Chris. And would you guys tell us a little bit about what you do as a Student Success Advisor?
What about our dad jokes, Matt?
Hold on. Don't forget that question.
This is Matt's Monday, apparently.
Monday on the Thursday. Here we go.
All right, so we got some dad jokes for the dads in the room and those that are not. Okay, ready? Can February march?
What?
Can February march?
Yes. No. Looks like there's only two answers.
I'm going to say yes.
What about you, Chris?
It may.
No, but April, May.
Oh, well, that's good. You were close.
Boom.
Hey, you get half credit.
I'll take half.
Yeah.
That was pretty good, Chris. Okay.
I mean, as an advisor, I would say 50% is better than zero.
Hey, 100%.
That's a good point. And
Hey, do I get credit? Do I get credit for, like, attempting?
You get attendance points.
Okay.
Rob, people actually predicted that you would do well at these dad jokes, so don't disappoint them.
Hey, I'm just good with this shirt. Even though I failed yesterday, I forgot it was Wednesday.
How do you follow Will Smith in the snow?
Fresh Prince.
That's correct.
Ha! Now,
good.
now I'm a full 50%.
Yeah, that's valid. You offset it. Yeah.
Go ahead, Matt.
Okay, if April showers bring May flowers, what do May flowers bring?
Pilgrims.
Did I do that last time?
No, but I grew up with that one.
Okay.
Sorry. I didn't leave it open for a guess.
I don't even get it.
The Mayflower. The ship.
Oh, got you.
You don't have a history teaching background, do you, Rob?
Negative.
We came here to lead, not to read.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. What do you call a factory that makes okay products?
A factory that makes okay products.
And Rob, when you're talking, go ahead and lean into that microphone.
I don't
Don't mind your bubble, Chris. I'm coming in. Product that makes factory that makes okay products. I have no idea.
Yeah, I got nothing.
No? A satisfactory.
Oh, that was a good
that's
one.
valid.
That's legit.
Wah, wah, wah.
Okay, I got one last one.
Okay.
All right.
Gotta get this one. I keep
What
it
do you
50%.
call a belt with a clock on it?
A timing belt?
No, but good answer.
That was a good answer. Ridiculous.
No. Nope. A waste of time.
All right.
Yes, that would be 100% correct.
Yes. I mean, the mic is on a stand, but you could drop it after that.
Boom.
Boom.
What did the ocean say to the beach?
It didn't say anything. It just waved.
That's correct.
Oh my god,
Hey.
we all got one correct. That's awesome.
Okay, I got one more. And I'm just making this one up.
Oh, it ought to be classic
Yeah.
then. It's gonna be solid.
What do you call someone who is incompetent and lacks integrity?
He just
A
came-
student success advisor?
No.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
A politician.
Oh, that's gonna go over well.
Okay.
We don't have poli-sci majors here.
Okay, well let's talk.
Gosh.
Let's get back on
All
track.
right.
So, anyways, going back to Rob and Chris, what do you do as a success advisor here at South Dakota Mines?
A handful of things. So our primary focus with our roles is with freshmen. Our doors are open to any student. I would feel pretty comfortable saying that. We each have our own majors that we specialize in. So like I work with mechanical, computer science, computer engineering, physics, math, and electrical. And with those students, kind of as an initial touch point, like we're their traffic cop. So especially in this first semester, like if they don't know where to go or have questions and kind of don't know where to start, we're that initial touch point. Along with that, like we're also monitoring through Hard Rocker Success, Navigate, kind of how things are going. So if a student's kind of having a hard time and teachers are letting us know that, we're going to reach out and kind of see like what can we do to help. It's not a principal's office, you're in trouble kind of thing. It's more of a, we see that maybe you're struggling a little bit, so we're gonna see if we can reach out to you and sort of figure out what's going on and what we can do to maybe find workarounds for that and make things work more efficiently for you.
Absolutely. The only thing that I'd probably add to that is getting those students to understand, because anytime you bring up, hey, academic skills and hey, remember this, that, and another, how to do this, how to do that, they instantly want to turn you off. But understanding, getting that student to understand that all of those academic skills that you're talking about are also those same skills that you're going to apply in a workplace. So it's like, hey, how do you study up on the project that you're working on? How do you understand the inner workings of this, that, and another? Not just your little piece that you're responsible for, but the picture in its entirety. And then also, Chris had mentioned primarily we work with the freshmen and a few of the sophomores carrying over, but also I've been called into some of the senior project classes, senior design project classes, and it's like connecting those upperclassmen back to all those things that they're running on just autopilot, right? And so it's like they're doing these things, but not consciously understanding that they are applying these skill sets. And so getting them to reconnect with what they're doing every day and understanding what they could possibly improve on is also a big thing that we do.
Thanks. And both you guys have teaching backgrounds, is that correct?
Yep.
Yeah. So, with your experience at South Dakota Mines and as well as your background in teaching, what is it that makes a student successful?
There are a handful of things that go about it. One, and I tell students this, I would say pretty much every day. Studying is a skill. It's not a talent. It's something that you hone over time. There is no one thing that works for every student, with the exception of don't study in your room. It doesn't work. It just doesn't. Finding a different productive place to study and work is one thing that is 99.999% true. But everything else is individual to each student, and there's no silver bullet that you change one thing and everything works. It's efficiency. It's that reflection and tweaking one little thing and tweaking another little thing and finding those other ways to just be a little more productive and adding those sum of the parts. That's what makes things work for students.
Yeah. It's that comparison piece, right? It's like, well, why does Tommy get this and I don't get this? Why does, it's like you can't compare yourself to these other people just because it's like Chris was saying, it's a skill set. Like you're going to be a lot better at doing this or understanding how this concept was presented to you than maybe somebody else is. And so it's like, and maybe they're better at understanding how that professor presented those concepts than you are. And so it's like figuring out what works for you is the big part. And sometimes, like, when they get to us because they were high achieving students in high school, they never really had to figure that out. They were just, their brain function was like just their A's no matter what, right? And so they get here, and rigor level and depth of knowledge and all this stuff is a little bit different than it was in high school. So it's like you've got to figure out what your learning style is. And if you don't know that, then you might try 3 or 4 other things and it's just not working. Well, then frustration level rises and your stress and anxiety rises, and it's just a big domino thing. So having a teaching background and understanding how to get a kid back on track or getting them to understand what works for them and not getting frustrated yourself Like, hey, why aren't you listening to me? It's one of these things where it's like, hey, how'd that work out? We gave you this info or these tools last time. What'd you do? Well, I kind of did this, but I'm still in the same place. Okay, you didn't commit. Okay, you haven't committed to it. So you got to commit to applying these changes, all right? And being the individual who's presenting this stuff, you can't be emotionally invested, right? You can't have that expectation. Your job is to present it to them, follow up, remind, hey, why are we not doing this? Hey, remember what we decided on, and reconnecting them to everything that you're presenting. And then if it's not working or they're seeing a slight increase, changing course just a little bit. Okay, that worked a little bit. The next step would be this. Okay, and understanding how all those Legos kind of go together.
And like you brought up a really good point of like when students are dealing with that frustration of like, why is this student getting it and I'm not? Like, don't get caught up on that. That's not a fair comparison. It's not apples to oranges. It's apples to pickup trucks. Students have completely different backgrounds and experiences, and when a student is understanding something in class, it's because they're building off of their unique background, which is a giant set of puzzle pieces that's different than your giant set of puzzle pieces. And teachers are going to explain things in one very specific way just because that's what that teacher does. There are 900 different ways to explain the same concept, and it's finding the way that works for you. And that can sound a little overwhelming, but it just takes honing that kind of self-resourcefulness and intuitive skill, to take the basic concepts of what's being presented to you and knowing sort of how to find the rest of it on your own, whether it's by knowing how to search some resources, how to utilize the textbooks and the programs that you're given outside of class, but not get so wrapped up in trying to compare yourself to somebody else. It's not worth the time. It's not worth the stomach acid that gets churned over it. And I know that that's an easier said than done thing, but it's just not something, it's invalid data, to do that. And that's probably one of the main conversations that I have with students initially is figuring out how to study, but also that's a really big thing to start, to stop doing.
Yeah.
And that build, like you were saying, like building the self-reliance of the best study skills are the ones that you do on your own. A big comparison that I give to students is studying's a daily habit. It's like exercise. Like if you set out to run 7 miles in a week, it's a lot easier to run 1 mile a day than it is to blow it off until Sunday and try and tell yourself that you're going to run 7 miles. You're not going to do that. You're going to hit 3 miles and, just be done. Studying works the same way. You're going to, that's just what procrastination is. And you end up yielding those negative returns, and then you're into that backlog and trying to do recovery instead of maintenance, and that's a whole other conversation that we have with students too.
Yeah The big thing, we kind of alluded to it and everything we just said, is understanding that as a student this whole thing is a 4 to 5 year process. Right? And if you keep applying the skills and keep building those skills throughout those 4 to 5 years, you will be successful. And it's not going to come instantaneously, but in the days of these little pocket computers that you got, that also receive and send calls, but that's not their primary function anymore. You get instant gratification on stuff. It's right there in a matter of seconds, right? Depending on your Wi-Fi connection, and stuff like that. But yeah, it's like understanding. Hey, you're not going to see. You apply something Tuesday night, you're not going to see that Wednesday morning. You're probably going to see it in 2 Tuesdays. You're going to start seeing results, but it's going to be down the road. You just got to be patient with it, understand the process, and keep plugging away with it. And communication, right? That's a huge thing. You keep up with your communication. What's working? What's not working? Where are you missing? What piece isn't connecting with this? And learning to articulate that stuff. That's the big things. Those are big things.
Setting realistic goals, having those, and being whether it's with studying or what plans you're giving yourself throughout the semester, having those checkpoints throughout, like, how am I doing on this? I know with some students, kind of self-monitoring is a really big thing, of keeping your own logbook of your grades, being very judicious on D2L, on seeing what's posted on there and kind of running your own spreadsheet on where you're at percentage-wise. I tell students a lot, too, of, like, knowing where you're at, but also knowing what you have left and running those projection models. It helps quell a lot of that anxiety that comes from trying to be high achieving, because then you can set those realistic goals of, like, what do I need to do to get what I want? When it goes from being abstract to concrete and quantifiable, like, to get an A in this class, I need to get this average percentage on all of my remaining assignments. Or, going to kind of the tougher conversations of, like, I just failed my midterm. What grades do I need to get on everything else remaining to pass the course? Which is not the favorite conversations of a lot of students, but it's a very real one. And sometimes, and this is a really big shift for those students who have never gotten below an A or a B before, but in being in a very rigorous school, is a conversation that, when we tell them, like, this is okay, getting some C's is fine. It's not something that we want to be, super casual of, like, yeah, no, C's get degrees. Like, you want to push to be better than that, but, but getting a C every once in a while is perfectly acceptable. But setting those realistic plans to get that kind of makes it less ethereal and mysterious, and because when it's in that unknown, it's just really deflating and demotivating. Like, I don't know what to do, so why bother? But if you kind of know, like, no, I can do this, this, and this, and if I got this on this, great, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. If I got a little bit below it, then I'm going to adjust and stick and move. It makes things much more manageable.
Yeah.
It's all, just organization and efficiency, really. I mean, that's 80% of the conversation.
So about how many students do you meet with per week throughout the semester?
Depends on the week.
Yeah.
On average, lump them all together and then divide them by how many weeks we have.
I would probably say I'm meeting with close to 40 students a week, probably. Some of those are going to be repeats because I have them set on reoccurring appointments. A lot of those are walk-ins. Or follow-ups on an email I sent because an alert popped up, or a professor sent me an email, hey, can you touch base with this student because of ABC? But yeah, I would probably say 40 on an average. High traffic weeks with things like going on.
Oh, like on October 18th when DEF grades got posted. That was a light week.
Yeah, those are easy. Then you're probably, man, I don't know, probably double that.
The door just stays open.
Yeah.
I mean, that's about where it's at. Navigate is definitely where a lot of appointments get scheduled, but I always have the hard and fast rule: if my door's open, my door's open, and I definitely get a lot of walk-ins, which is great. I want that to be the narrative that I have with students of, if you have a question, just come in and ask. Sometimes it's a 3-minute thing, but sometimes that spins out into being a 30-minute conversation. And that, these one-time sit-downs can a lot of the times reset the direction of a student's semester. And it seems innocuous, but, like, it really can. Just giving them that readjustment of, like, this is very doable. And we've kind of set a plan on this. You can follow up with me. I'd love it if you did. But sometimes, like, they're just good to go, and we see those Navigate notifications start dropping away, or even better, turn into being positive ones. Students should know that, like, teachers do post positive notifications to us too. We don't just get bad news, and we really love to see. We actually see more good news than bad, which is good. Good news is good.
Good news is good.
Shocking. You know, and it's never like critical, like it's never bad news in the sense of being negative. It's always points of concern. You know, like I always want to make sure that students know that teachers are coming from a point of wanting to make sure you're doing well. You know, and that's the conversation that we have of they're concerned on how you're doing. We're that extra point of support to see what we can do to see what's going on and then fix it. You know, work with you to fix it.
So, and I might be oversimplifying this, but here's what I'm envisioning from what you've said so far is that when you meet with students, I'm kind of putting students into one of three different categories, and you can tell me if this is right or not. And I'll get to what I'm getting at here. Is one category is you meet with them, you give them your advice, and they're receptive to it, they hear it, and they implement that right away. Second category is they hear what you're saying, it goes in one ear and out the other because they're just a typical young adult, and you know they're not at the point where they're receptive to that, but then they go on, they get a bad grade, they struggle in a test, they get overwhelmed, and they kind of have that wake up aha moment, and then they go back and implement what they're saying. And then I'm picturing a third category to where they hear what you're saying, it goes in one ear, out the other, they start struggling, they never come back to that conversation, they never come back to that advice and ask for help, being a third category. And if that's somewhat accurate, I'm getting kind of a head nod and puzzle look. When you meet with those students, I'd be willing to bet that sometimes there's some warning signs before that. And so what are those warning signs? And you know, for students that are listening to that, how, you know, if this rings true to them, what can they do now to, you know, not go down that path of struggling and never taking the advice, never getting the help, never, you know, doing what they need to succeed. And let me add that no student gets accepted to South Dakota Mines if they can't succeed. Everyone that meets the admissions criteria, and I'm on the admissions committee, is capable of succeeding. So they have the ability, you know, plenty don't. So how can a student head that off early? And what are the warning signs to know that?
Two things. One, I would almost add like a fourth category, because you do get those students who come in, they listen to you a little bit, and then you don't hear from them, and then all of a sudden they follow up with you, and it's like, hey, I listened to what you were saying. I didn't fully buy into what you were saying, but then all of a sudden this happened, and then I did what you said, and it worked. I want to know more now. Okay, so there's like that another like maybe it's not even a fourth category. It's a category inside of a fourth category. Yeah, so it's like
I said I was oversimplifying it.
Yeah, so it's like, but I would say that you are correct in what you're talking about. Absolutely.
Totally.
And then the other thing is like, you got to learn. I am not an engineer. I am not a STEM-based individual at all. But with the education thing, it's like what connects you to that? So it's like I talk to these kids about effectiveness and efficiency, right? So everything in STEM is finding a better way to do whatever you're doing. Okay, whether it's building something, a new process for something, researching whatever it is. So it's like, if that is what you are geared towards and how your brain works, then how do you attach that same thinking process to what you are trying to learn?
Yeah.
To then apply to the job, right? Project them out to the job or bring them back into the job, however you want to look at it, right? And so it's like that effectiveness and those efficiencies, and like I said previous, is like all of these academic skills, you know, quote fingers on that thing, are your job skills. It's like, hey, what you are doing in this class is the same way you're going to approach an issue in the office area or in the job market, right? It's like, if you get frustrated and want to point the finger at your professor, right or wrong, does that mean you're going to get frustrated and point the finger at your boss and then like stop doing your job? You're not going to have a job very long, okay? Whether your boss is kind of putting it this way, that way, or another way, you still have a job to do. Just like a student, you still have a job to do in the class. Learn the content the best you can, and then apply that knowledge to the measurements of success, right? Your exams or your projects or whatever. And so it's like sometimes you need to listen to an outside source of, hey, cool, I like what you're doing here, but you're not very efficient in your time, right? So it's like you're spending 3 hours somewhere studying this and getting frustrated, where if you did it like this, you would get to the end a lot quicker with a lot less frustration, and maybe you now are working in a group. What is it like to work collectively in a group versus by yourself? Because everything in job market, you're going to be a part of a team. So it's like, how do you work as a team? Well, you got to be open to another way of learning, listening, and functioning inside of a group.
There are three concepts that I talk about with students, because our students are young adults. There are no secrets with teaching, so there are three facets of education that I talk about with them that are called scaffolding, chunking, and synthesis. Scaffolding is you start with a concept that you know and understand and build off of it. So when it comes to studying, when you open up a textbook, you don't read it like a novel. It's a reference guide. So if you're working on a unit, you scan through it and find the actual part of it that you kind of know something about and start there and work your way out. Chunking is instead of taking the giant concept of it as a whole and not trying to eat it in one bite, but breaking off small pieces like that part that you already know. And taking that in. The biggest thing, though, and it kind of hops off of what Rob was saying, is synthesis. This is what really drives how students study. There's a huge difference between projects, papers, and test prep. Projects and papers are very concrete. You can see how far you are on a paper. If you've got a 15-page paper and you're 10 pages in, you know exactly where you are. And you have that very easy rubric to follow of what you need to do. It's follow the bouncing ball. Test prep is super abstract, and that's where students really stress out because it's a mystery. You don't know what you're walking into. You don't know what the exact questions are going to be. You don't know whether you're ready or not. That's where synthesis comes in. There are two ways that students feel like they're ready. One of them is cramming, and that is the inhale and puke method. That is where you suck in a bunch of information, you inhale it into your brain, and you puke it out on the test, and you don't remember anything. It's a lot of memorization, so you know this term is associated with this string of words. Synthesis, because we kind of forget that the whole point, and this is really what Rob was getting at, is to actually learn what we're here to learn, and then to have that knowledge going into a job. Synthesis is taking the knowledge that's presented to you and internalizing it in a way that makes sense to you. The really good check for if you're at synthesis for knowledge is if you can take a term or a concept and talk about it in your language. This podcast is I hope a really good example of that. Rob and I are talking about these terms in the way that we talk about them. Rob has got his vernacular, I've got my vernacular, and that's the way that this stuff has meaning to us. The way that Rob is going to explain something is going to be slightly different than the way that I explain it. Both of them are right. That's the brilliance of these things. Is that there aren't any wrong answers with synthesis per se. But these are also terms that, not to carbon date us here, we didn't learn a year ago. It's more than a decade ago. It's pre-Cambrian era.
Yeah, don't let them know how old we are.
Yeah.
Come on.
No, I'm young. I'm
I'm
hip.
young at heart, man.
I'm hip. I'm cool. I'm with the kids. But that's a really key point. With knowing and understanding, because what happens is when you have synthesis, you remember it. And you're able to apply it then to things moving forward, and that's the ball game. That's everything, and that's the study skills that we build. I mean, it's the end goal of everything, and all of the skills and traits and things that we try and impress upon students is to get to that point that you can tell us the term or concept that you're working on like you would tell your friends while sitting down talking over coffee, that if someone's coming up and asking you about concept in chem, that while you're walking to class you can just tell them real quick, without having to actively think about it. That's synthesis. You talk about it no different than you would talk about concepts of the favorite game you play. The other thing that I was going to say before I forgot, there is a fifth category. It is all of the other categories are ones that we like to see because it means that you're engaged in some level. The fifth category is the only one that is really tough and can be frustrating, and that's the ghost. And I'll tell you from our end, and especially with faculty, the one thing you don't want to be is a ghost. If we're emailing you or teachers are kind of getting on you about stuff, just come in. You're not going to get yelled at. We're all adults here. No one's going to get on your case or make you feel bad about anything. That's not our style. It's not what we're here to do. But if you ignore it, teachers are just going to write you off. Why expel the energy on that? Yeah. If you're showing that you don't care, they're going to spend their time on students that do. And that's not unfair, in my opinion. Our door is always open. But like Rob said, we meet with 40 or 50 students a week, and we'll keep reaching out to you. But it's really a bummer when we're trying to help students and they just are not engaging. And those are the ones that are they're worrisome. They're the ones that are they're going to have the hardest end result, and it's a drag. Because there are a lot of the times, like a ghost is the prime example of when small, easy problems spin out to become really big problems, and that's when much bigger, tougher conversations happen of I don't know, we have to figure out what to do next semester because no classes were passed.
Yeah.
I've been quiet most of the time because I'm just taking in a lot of stuff, but I guess we've talked about a lot of different students, right? We've talked about high achieving students that are going to be just fine here, which all of these students are going to be just fine depending on how they approach a problem. But we've talked about students that may be struggling with certain classes or a lot of classes. We've talked about the ghosts. But my question is, what about the middle? What are things that you can do, or how do you guys go about motivating the middle? What would you, if they came in and we talked that you have a lot of walk-ins, how do you approach those students that are in the middle?
That aren't it's not that they're not achieving, it's just not achieving to what their level or expectation is. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, or they're just doing fine, they're at B's, but they're just not maybe feeling like they belong, or they're having difficulty maybe fitting in, or maybe they do want to get those A's.
Got you.
But they're doing fine.
Got you. Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. No. The biggest thing that is, you just kind of started into what my response would be. It's what are they looking for growth? Where are they wanting to grow, right? Let's stick with grades real quick. So it's they want to go from C's and B's to B's and A's. Okay, so what are you currently doing? All right, well, how can we make this more effective and efficient? So if it's efficiency, then you can add a little bit of what you need to do, okay? Or if it's effectiveness, then you all of a sudden see that instant jump, right, of grade, points on quizzes, things like that. If it's engagement on campus, okay, what do they like? What do they enjoy? What kind of personality do they have? And then give them those different options of how they can engage with like-minded individuals. Hey, did you know this existed? Oh, no, what is that about? Okay, well, let me put you in contact of the advisor for that program or the student connection. It's hey, I have a mentor for you, right? Because that's another thing that we haven't talked about is all the freshmen coming in have peer mentors who are upperclassmen in the same academic program. So it's
you talked about tutoring.
Yeah, it's that is a direct point of contact for them for all this other information that's in the background of what you're talking about. So it's like figuring out, and this is through conversation, right? Which gets back into our communication piece. It's like getting them to communicate with you. Yeah. Now, if they want to come in and talk face to face, fantastic. That is my preferred method of communication. If they want to go with a different domain of language, reading and writing, the other two versus speaking and listening, then if you want to do this via email, okay, cool, we can do this. It's going to be a lot less efficient because then there's going to be a lot of questions back and forth and then the time and all this stuff. But we can do that too. It's like, hey, these are different things that you can look at. They are found on the website here, link included. This is your point of contact to find out more information, okay? Oh, I see you have this professor for this class. He knows a lot about, or she knows a lot about that program. Next time you're in class, follow up with these questions. This will get the ball rolling. Because sometimes it's comfort, right? They always say, hey, growth isn't in your comfort bubble. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, you can't just jump in there and rupture that bubble all at once, okay? You've got to kind of work with them inside that bubble to get them to walk back out of it, right? And so it's like if initial communication is via email, that's fine. Okay, you've got to these steps. It's time for you to come in and talk.
Yeah. There's another subset of the middle. Because there are a lot that are like what you're talking about. They're cruising and they're getting C's and B's and they want to get B's and A's. There is a different subset of the middle, and they're the ones that are burning the candle at both ends, and they are grinding as hard as possible to not get notifications, to not get noticed, to try and not get dinged on anything. Those are the ones that I want to get, because those are the ones that they're burning out hard, and they're the ones that your heart is in it, and we can fix like whatever it is that you're doing. If you're engaged and working that hard, we can tweak some things and get you access to things to make this work. But if you're working that hard to not get noticed, it's hard for us to find you. Mentors may be able to notice it, but if you're working that hard to not get noticed, you're flying, if you're intentionally trying to fly under the radar because you're worried about not being seen as that high achieving student or something like that, which I know is a pretty common thing. It's that fear of not being regarded as being best of the best of the best. It's hard for us to catch you, but those are the ones that we can turn into absolute rock stars. But we got to get them in the office, and it's so hard to find them.
Yeah.
And that's like, to me, that's the demographic that it's so hard to find, but like is the number one target I'm trying to find, because those are the ones that, like, there's short-term burnout and there's long-term burnout, because college is a marathon, it's not a sprint, and they're sprinting hard. Short-term burnout is when you're like studying on a Sunday and you've read a page 3 times and don't know what it says. Long-term burnout is when you're getting up more tired than when you went to bed every day. And every day has that diminishing return, and November is rolling around and you're like, I just don't want to do this.
Yeah.
We can help you make this work for you and really turn the boat around really quickly. If you're putting in that much effort, it really just means that, like you're driving a car on the wrong gear, that you're in second gear when you should be in fourth, and we can show you and give you access to things to like pop that into the right gear, change some things about how you're doing it, and you're going to see how quickly you fly.
So, speaking of, where can students find you guys on campus if they need help?
Well, that's probably a pretty good thing to know. We're very secretive. We're in the tunnels.
Yeah.
We're hidden. We're in the new library.
Students will go down there.
Literal.
Or I might.
Literal. Yeah. We're in the Devereaux Library. So the brand new shiny library. If you walk in the ground level floor, which is the second floor, please try not to think about that too hard. But if you go in and you see Einstein's, keep walking straight. You'll hit the back and swing a right. We're in that back hallway.
Careful next time security finds a student wandering around the tunnels. They're going to say, well, Rob and Chris told me this is where I find them at.
told us we could go down here.
I can neither confirm nor deny that I said that we're in the tunnels.
And Chris, I'm glad you brought up the long-term, short-term burnout, because that's not so different than when you start working for a company and you're doing your full-time job. You know, if you start feeling that long-term burnout, or you feel like you're just giving everything you have and you don't feel like you're thriving, hopefully, and for, you know, good reputable companies, there should be somebody within that company that's there to help you, and they're not there to yell at you, like you said. They're not there to scold you. They're not going to think, oh, this person is bad at their job. They want you to thrive and succeed.
And have those mentors.
Yeah, and have those mentors.
It brings up another really, really important point that gets glossed over way, way, way too often. You need to turn off. Everybody has a certain time of day or just certain number of hours in the week that you're not a student. We are people. You need to have hobbies. You need to have those things that let you regenerate, calm down, have fun. You know, you need to prioritize and schedule that too. You know, if we're just going to school all day, every day, and studying all day, every day, we forget why we're here. We don't get that relax and recharge, and that's where that long-term burnout comes from. It's that idea of, like, when we talk about as professionals, like, I leave work at work. We leave school at school, and living on campus, that can get really blurred very easily. You know, and that's why I say, like, don't study in your room. Your room is where you go to relax. You know, if you like playing video games, you need to have some of that in your day. You know, you need to do whatever it is that you need to unwind and remember that you're a person. You know, we need those things. You know, so that's a big reminder too. You need to schedule your downtime just as much as you need to schedule your productive time.
Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of jumps in another thing. It's like we've kind of been dancing around that we've just never said it. It's like, what's your mindset towards everything, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like understanding that there's going to be weeks where the side of your wellness triangle that Chris is talking about, your social and your physical well-being and your emotional well-being, are shrunk. Those sides of that triangle are shrunk down because academics is taking priority because maybe you have 3 tests that week, right? And so it's like having the mindset of understanding that thing is constantly adjusting, and constantly time is going to be given and taken away in different allocations and things like that, depending on what is going on that week, right? Don't be so rigid in your thinking where it's like, I have to have these 6 hours every week. Well, you might not have 6 hours. Maybe you have 4 hours to do that given activity that week. It's like because of this, that, and another, right? Maybe this happened, like projects, like a file is corrupt and you have to redo it. Okay, well, you can be mad about it 100%, but instead of spending an hour and a half sitting there fuming, throwing things and this, that, and another, it's like, be efficient. Hey, you've got to redo it. You've got to redo it. Buckle down, just redo it, get the group together, do this, that, and another, bang, done, right? Well, that time spent doing that is going to eat somewhere, right? Your bandwidth is only 24 hours. So it's got to come from somewhere, right? So something has to give and take. Just if you're efficient in what you're doing, you're going to have some unallocated time. So if it's that important to you, then go do that.
You know, and a couple things, like, you're absolutely right. Like, if something does go wrong, it's like the movie The Martian. You start with step 1. You know, if you have a problem, you start with step 1, which goes to step 2, so on and so forth. The other thing is that we are one spoke of many on a wheel. There are so many resources on campus to help make this work for you. You know, we help with studying, we help with a lot of things that are academic. Student development has a litany of services to help make things work for you too. You know, along with career services, along with, you know, ADA and the testing center and, you know, all these things on campus that work collaboratively to make school work for you. You know, so, and know that we all talk to each other too. You know, we make sure that, you know, if something is outside of my realm, I'm going to help get you in contact with the person that you need. I'm not just going to go like, man, that sucks. You should probably go work on that. You know, like, I'm not going to do that. That's not how this works. we're going to get you in contact. I'm going to tell you who to get a hold of. And if I need to get that handshake, that handoff going, we're going to do that.
So when you said Martian, like, what do you mean Martian? Like the
The
little green
movie.
guy on Bugs Bunny?
No, the movie, The Martian with Matt Damon when he gets stuck on Mars.
Oh, yeah, and he grows the potatoes.
Yeah, and he says, like, what do? You start with step one. That's
I have no idea.
Rob
what you're
doesn't
talking
watch
about.
a lot of movies, viewers or listeners, so just keep that in mind.
Yeah, like
I watch a lot of them.
I
And,
have no idea what you're talking about.
dude, the movie's rad. You should watch it.
Okay,
Really, he grows potatoes on Mars.
sounds like a great time.
All right, so we are just about out of time. So if you can either give one piece of advice or recap one thing that you would like to leave students with, please do. And I'm gonna actually recap Chris's most recent piece of advice. Is you don't need to know. If you need something, you don't necessarily have to know exactly who to go to. Just ask somebody. Ask your mentor. Ask Student Success. Ask Career Services. Ask the Ivanhoe International Center. Ask the Veterans Research Center. It doesn't matter. Just ask somebody on campus, and they'll point you in the right direction.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That kind of definitely takes what I was going to say. It's like you can't be afraid to venture out of that comfort bubble at times, because that's where you're going to grow the most, but also that's where most of those resources are going to be. You've got to be able to reach out, ask for help. Even if you don't even know what you're asking, you just know that, hey, what I'm doing is not working.
Yeah.
And I'm so frustrated now that I can't even think of another way to do something. So it's like, let me just word vomit on you in a meeting. And Chris and I, and Susan, because Susan's a new advisor.
And Corinne.
Yeah, Corinne. So there are more than two of us. There are four. Kind of broke up by major, but any of us can do this. It's like we will pick out the pertinent information and start putting the puzzle together.
The way that I put it to students is every student has an instruction manual to make this work. Nobody has the same instruction manual.
Absolutely.
So we're here to help you find it. We're not here to write it for you, but we're here to kind of give the pieces and help you intuitively arrange it. But know that what works for the person sitting next to you may not necessarily work for you. They may have some stuff that kind of does, so that you can work collaboratively, and you may not even need us. And that is the case for some students. But we're always available for you. But that's a big part, is that it's finding that instruction manual and building that out for you, and with you. And that's a big thing. We're not going to do this for you. We will help you build it.
Okay, well, thank you, Chris, Rob, and Hillary. We appreciate your time today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to Career Insight on KTEQ FM, Rapid City.
That's Matt's like super awesome radio voice.
Yeah, so for the record, we do only have cool people on this show. So you made the cut.
Huzzah.